What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Revelers Rule podcast. This is episode 5 of season 2. And today I am joined by a face that's no doubt familiar to a number of you. I met this gentleman last year at TPE in Las Vegas, and we actually just kind of met by chance. We were literally walking down the street to the after party of the first day of TPE. And we got to know each other, hang out, and he's a great guy. And of course, I'm talking about Chris, the owner of Mobile Cigar Box and the host of the Sunday Afternoon Spokes podcast. What's going on, Chris? How you doing?
Hey, Kyle, thanks for having me, man. And what you just said right there is 100% accurate. I remember leaving the hotel on the way to the after party, and I just went to TPE by myself. I didn't know. I had one gentleman who you met, Charles from Carolina Cigar Company.
Yes,
Uh,
very nice gentleman.
Very nice gentleman. He's the one that got me a ticket to go. But anyway, I'm walking from the hotel to, what was it, Caesar's Palace?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
the Caesar's Palace right across the street from the link where they put us all
yeah,
up at.
right. And so I'm just walking. I don't know anybody. I'm by myself. And, you probably hate going to those kinds of things as a solo guy.
Kind of, yeah.
Um, I did. But I just kind of noticed that here's this dude kind of walking about the same pace as me. We're really not that far apart. And so I just decided to say, hey, or maybe you did. I don't remember who spoke first. And then we just kind of hung out that night for the after party. And then you wound up introducing me to, um, gosh, his name escapes me.
Cigar Show Tim.
Yeah, Cigar Show Tim. Yeah. And then a different night we went and hung out at whatever with the guys from Apostate Cigars over at one of the
Yeah,
other
I think
hotels.
the next night we went over to the Sahara, and we hung out with Brandon and Kendrick and a few other people. That was a fun night. I enjoyed that a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. So that's
But
how
yeah,
that's how we met.
I think I remember you saying that like one of the reasons why you felt like comfortable just like introducing yourself or talking to me was because I had a beard as well.
That's yeah. Beards just make everything more comfortable.
No, for sure. No, and it turned out that turned out to be a great event. I mean, granted, the cigar industry doesn't have as big of a presence at TPE as it once did, but that doesn't change the fact that, it was still a really fun time. You and I both got to really connect with a lot of great brands and brand owners and other cigar media people. And it's always a fun time. And I definitely made some great connections while I was there that I'm still in touch with, that I still have good, I keep in touch with regularly. So it was definitely a good time. And, but though, Chris, um, it's not just, it gets even more convoluted when we talk about like just the things we have in common and the overlap, because come to find out, you lived in the same town as me for a number of years. And obviously I didn't know it. You didn't know it. And that is good old like Alta Loma Rancho Cucamonga here in Southern California.
Yeah, I spent 12 years in Cucamonga, which, if you're not from that area, anytime you say I lived in Rancho Cucamonga, people are like, "What? Where?" It's such a
Watch
it's such
next
a
Friday.
yeah, it's such a unique name. But I pastored there for 12 years, and I lived in Cucamonga for a while.
Hmm.
I rented an apartment there, and then wound up renting a home, and then eventually I wound up buying a home in Rialto.
Yeah.
And but yeah, that whole area, Rancho, Fontana, Rialto, Ontario. Yeah, I spent a lot of time there, man. I went to Bible college up in Lancaster in the high desert, which is not too
Yeah.
terribly far from there. So I spent
No.
about 20 years all in all in SoCal. And
Yeah.
yeah, of course now I live in South Carolina.
Which I have to assume is a bit of an upgrade, because as nice as Southern California is, it's also very expensive. It's kind of polluted. It has its gems, it has its nice areas, but every time I see a picture of South Carolina or North Carolina, it's just beautiful out there.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I like Northern California is much prettier than Southern California,
I
in
agree.
my opinion. I don't really care for Southern California. You know, it's known for people who don't know Southern California, they would not understand what the term concrete jungle means. But, you know, it's just nothing but roads and freeways and industrial parks and residential and commercial buildings for, you know, hours inland until you get to the coast. That's why we call it the concrete jungle. But you go up
Yep,
north and it's, you know, there's the redwoods, there's some of the, you know, you get towards Yosemite,
yep.
and it's just very rural and beautiful. But here in South Carolina and in North Carolina, yeah, man, here I am. Now, granted, I'm further from the beach than I was when I lived in Cucamonga, but I'm not a guy that's super in love with the beach anyway. So it's not a big deal to me. But in 3 hours, I can be in Charleston. I can be in Isle of Palms. You know, in 2 hours, I can be in Atlanta, catch a Braves game if I want to.
Nice.
I'm an hour away from Asheville. There's a lot of good food and artsy stuff up there. Greenville, of course, right by where I live is a very cool town. Lots going on there. The food scene is growing. You know, probably a I don't know, I haven't mapped it in quite a while, but a 4 to 6 hour drive.
Yeah.
I'm in Nashville if I want to do like country music USA. You know, so it's a
Nice.
very, yeah, you know, if you're a big college football fan, you know, Clemson is 30 minutes from me. Columbia, the Gamecocks is 2 hours. So I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a couple of lakes around here. You know, I can drive 20 minutes and be on Lake Kiwi on a pontoon boat if I want to be, you know, and it's just, and by the way, they're like a cigar on a pontoon boat on a summer day. Yeah,
I can imagine. I
that's where
can
it's at.
imagine. That sounds beautiful. I'm gonna have to try that someday because I've never had a cigar. Yeah, I've yet to have a cigar on any boat, much less a pontoon boat.
Well,
So,
I don't know. I don't know what kind of boat rentals they have up at Big Bear. Can you get pontoons up there?
um, I think so. And for those of you unaware, Big Bear is a mountain town just north. I mean, the mountain range north of where I live. I live in Corona, which is probably about an hour and a half south of Big Bear. Maybe farther, but yeah, you could get up to Big Bear in about an hour or so from Ranch Cucamonga, and Big Bear's a nice, cozy little mountain town.
It's a great spot, man. I mean, it really
Hmm.
is. Um, yeah, you should this summer make a weekend of it. Go up to Big Bear, rent you a little cabin or a little Airbnb, and see if you can get you a pontoon boat. Take a couple of friends or um, and get out on the water and get you some cigars going on the pontoon, man. It is one of the best ways to have a cigar.
Might have to do that. Might have to like just have a guys' weekend with my dad and my brother, and just head on up there and have somebody else do the driving because I don't do mountain drives, man. Mountain drives freak me the hell out. I like just to kind of give you some context, like I not last year, but late 2024. Yeah, late 2024. Um we went to Yosemite, and which is beautiful. Yosemite's just one of the most amazing national parks. And that's one of the beautiful things about Northern California is that we have a couple, like two or three, maybe four national parks that I know of. There's Redwood. There's what's it? Where the sequoias are. I can never remember the
Yeah.
name of that national park. And then of course Yosemite. And I did none of the driving after we got into the area to go into the park. That was mainly like I was just a passenger, which I can handle being a passenger, but like if I were to drive, we would have all been in danger. So I
Mom,
just
yeah, my mom's that way, but I don't. She's not a very calm passenger. Um, she'll be like, if it's looking kind of sketchy, if there's like a really beautiful view and you're
yeah.
like going around a curve and the driver's wanting to like look at the view, she's like slapping my dad. She's like slapping him on his arm. She's like, "You pay
Dear
attention to,
God.
yeah, you pay attention to the road. You drive, you know." And
It's
yeah,
like you're
she
gonna
gets,
get us into an accident long before I do, woman.
yeah. I mean, she's not grabbing at the wheel, but she's like slapping at it, like, "You pay attention to the road."
Oh my gosh. That's yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I love going to national parks. It's beautiful. And we're actually going to be going seeing another national park this I think we will be seeing it on our trip. We're going up to Alaska in July. And
Nice.
we're going on an Alaskan cruise, but I think we're going to get to see Glacier National Park while we're up there. But
Yeah,
yeah, that'll probably be the last big trip we take for a while. So,
yeah.
but
What's your
we're
cruise
super
line?
excited. I'm trying to remember the name of it because, like, my wife and my mother-in-law, they're the ones handling all of the details and travel arrangements and stuff like that because they're very good at that kind of stuff. And I can't remember the name of the cruise line for the life of me, but
Yeah.
I know it's
Well,
going to be beautiful.
hopefully they have a smoking section on the top deck for you.
Nah, I don't think
No?
so. Not a whole lot of cruise liners do.
Yeah, well, I'm taking a cruise here in I've got the countdown timer on my phone. Let's see here. Family cruise coming up. Um Family cruise coming up in 32 days. So
Wow.
me and my wife and my two youngest kids and my mom and dad are taking a 7-night Eastern Caribbean on Carnival.
Ooh, we did
Yeah.
that. We did
And
that years ago.
there's a smoking section up there on the top deck. So like
Yeah.
being out like and I did this last fall with my wife. We took a short cruise. It was the first cruise we ever took the end of September. Um a short Caribbean one for she and I. And yeah, up on the top deck, they've got a smoking section and just there it is, more cigars on boats. Like being out in the middle of the ocean on that top deck, feeling the ocean breeze, just enjoying a cigar, maybe got a nice drink. And it's laid back because you're on a cruise ship. And just to give you like the full picture there, it's just, you're in shorts, you're in flip-flops. If you've got a shirt on, fine. Or if you've got like a button down, you just like unbutton it all the way and just gets you're just relaxed. Like it is one of it's if for me, it's either that or it's like late fall, early winter, and I'm around the fire pit with
Yep.
some guys and the bourbon's out or your
Yep.
beverage of choice and a cigar. Those are like the two. I'm not really sure which one of those is better.
They both have their own level of enjoyment. It's just a different experience, but you it's there's nothing like it. I think the closest to like a cruise ship, like smoking on a cruise ship, I ever got was my wife and I and my dad, um, we went on a trip to Mexico. This is while my dad was still married, but we were in Cabo and we were in this beautiful like timeshare resort and we the no matter where you went in in the hotel or the resort you could see the ocean. So my dad and I we went to an actual like smoke shop and we got a couple Cuban cigars and we just went up to I went up to his room and we sat out on the balcony and just enjoyed the lovely ocean breeze and the sound of the waves in the distance, and just got to. I'd never actually smoked while traveling. That was the first time I've ever smoked a cigar while traveling.
It's nice, isn't it?
It really is. It's something else.
It
So,
and here's one of the things that I would say that, in your future, if you're cruising or doing whatever, it's nice being in the world of cigars, um, especially when you get off in, like, the island port towns,
yeah,
and you go down to the beach, and you've got all these guys down there trying to sell you Cuban cigars for, like, 10 bucks,
they
and
tried. They definitely
the
tried.
w yeah, okay, so you already know, it's like, I know cigars enough to know that if that's a legit Cuban cigar, it ain't $10.
Hell no. No matter where you go. I mean, even in Mexico, there's no way in hell you're gonna be paying
No.
$10 for a genuine Cuban cigar, and I was talking with, Manolo from, Casa 1910 some years back. It was right after the first TP I ever went to, which was in 2023, and I had him on a podcast I was doing, and he was talking about how, like, the stuff they put in those fake Cubans, man, it's just like they'll throw, like, banana leaves in there just to
Really?
be like yeah, it's like a kind of a filler or kind of just like to you mean, if it comes in the glass top case, you know it's not a genuine. It's not a
Yeah.
cigar. It's not much less a genuine Cuban. You are just getting something somebody threw together. They made it look legit, but the biggest dead giveaway is the clear top to the case because they don't do that. Actual manufacturers do not do that.
No, they don't. This guy, when I was on the beach, with my wife, just trying to enjoy a few hours off the boat, he was showing me these Cubans that he had in a Ziploc bag. And he's like, "You can, you
Cubans.
know" right. And, of course, like I said, I'm in the world of cigars enough to know that you're just full of crap.
Yep.
Um, but it's just and that's fine. These dudes are trying to make a living, by, I
Yep.
guess, yeah, ripping. I mean, like, are they ripping people off? I maybe, like, just they want to associate. Everybody wants to associate cigars back to Cuba. In my opinion, it's cigar marketing. I think that the rest of the cigar world, you know, Honduras, Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, Ecuador, even, some of the tobacco from the United States, we've caught up with the land of Cuba. But anytime we can tie it back to Cuba, it just, for some reason, increases its stature. And so these guys on the beach are
Yep.
trying to sell you a name instead of a product. And they're probably making sales off of a lot of guys who are just out to have a good time. They don't normally smoke cigars, because if they normally smoke cigars, they would know this is garbage. But, but a guy, he's there on vacation with the boys or with the wife, and he just wants to unwind. And so he throws the guys $10 or $15 for a quote unquote Cuban cigar, and he has a good time with it. Hopefully, he has a good time with it. And he gets
Yeah.
to come back to the States and tell everybody he smoked a Cuban cigar, until he runs into his friend who actually smoked cigars and was like, "Hey, man, glad you had a good trip. That wasn't a Cuban." Or maybe his friend's nice enough just to let him live in the moment. I don't know.
Right? And thinking about it, like, you go down there with the mentality like guys like you and I who are well acquainted with the world and industry of cigars to know that they're not gonna be genuine. You go down there with the mentality of like, "I don't wanna get ripped off, so I'm just gonna, like, ignore them or just say no." But there's a part of me now that's kinda curious, like and because they're so cheap, like, throwing away 10 or 15 bucks isn't gonna break me. I kinda wanna know how they smoke. Just
Okay,
out of curiosity.
like I said, I'm going down in 34, 32 days, whatever my timer said it was, and I'll bring my own stash to smoke on the boat, you know?
Right.
But maybe whenever I get off the boat, and I don't remember exactly where all we're stopping, but maybe I'll pick a few up. I'll smoke them and report back, or maybe I'll pick a few up and I'll keep some and I'll send you some, and then we
Yeah.
can compare notes.
Yeah, we can jump on another recording and just say, okay, our buddy Chris here picked up some faux Cubans while he was on his trip just for shits and giggles. And we're going to smoke them right now in front of you and give you our honest assessment, knowing they're fake, knowing they're probably garbage. But yeah,
That
it,
would actually be really fun.
it would be. So maybe maybe we'll have to do that. So like, yeah, if you're out and like you're remembering and you think about it, yeah, maybe pick up some faux Cubans from a guy he's just trying to make a hustle. You know,
Yeah,
throw him a bone, and you come back with some fake Cuban cigars, and we see what's what. That actually does sound really fun.
it really does. And if you're, like you said, the things that they do, like the manufacturers in Cuba, they do not use the glass top. But even then, like if some guy's just trying to sell you uh cohibas out of a Ziploc bag, like,
Shit.
and if you know what you're looking for and you look at the band on the cigar, it's a dead giveaway. Like there's no hologram, like the head's the wrong shape, it's not holographic. You know, it's
Yep.
not, I think like the little black squares, I think there's like 7 rows of those, and I don't know, there's a lot going on there, but if you know what you're looking for, be like, all right, this is not, it's not what you're selling,
Those
but I'll buy it anyway for my fun podcast.
right. There's a whether like I jump on yours or you jump back on mine. Either way, I think that would be a good time. Just because like I don't know of any creator that I've seen that's done that. I mean, I'm sure somebody has. But as for me, I don't think I've ever seen like I think there's too much pride and even a little bit of snobbery where people are like, there's no way I'd ever buy that. Whereas like guys like you and me are like, screw it. We'll buy it and we'll see what happens, you know?
Well, you know what's funny to me is and I understand what people are saying. Like when you buy a fake Cuban, I mean it's not a fake cigar unless it's full of
No.
banana leaves, like you said. But it's a real cigar, and
Hmm.
honestly, who knows where the tobacco came from? But if you're buying it on the islands in the Caribbean, it was probably Dominican. If I had to guess, I don't know,
Yeah.
but it probably smokes okay. It's a real cigar. It's just not a Cohiba.
Well, odds are they probably sourced their tobacco like the C grade tobacco. They just got it cheap from somewhere and they found a guy who can roll and then they just found the counterfeit bands and did whatever they could to make it look as legit as possible. Like it's easy to in terms of the look, you can easily fake a Monte Cristo or even like one of the other brands as opposed to like Cohiba, which is a little trickier. You have to get kind of fancy.
Yeah.
Uh, but like they're getting craftier and better from what I've seen because like there be people say be on the lookout for this. It's like, well, this guy trying to sell this stuff to me ticked almost all the boxes except for like either it was in a plastic bag or a clear case, you know. Um, they're finding better ways to counterfeit, and it's kind of interesting. And I almost am a little impressed because I'm like, that can't be easy.
Yeah. I just figure if I'm going to smoke a cigar that is a legitimate Cuban cigar, um, and have the confidence that it is a legitimate Cuban cigar, that means I'm probably buying it from the shop, the gift shop at the resort that I'm staying in.
Yeah. Or
You
you
know,
try to
that's
find the most legit looking shop you can wherever you are because they, you know, they're there and they're not peddling anything. They actually, like the place we went to in Cabo, we were just walking the streets after dinner one night and we saw a very nice cigar lounge. It was an actual lounge. And so they had like a massive humidor with all of the typical offerings and stuff like that. And so we, you know, we didn't question and we didn't ask questions like, is this a real Cuban? I mean, be honest with me. The guy's a business owner and he the place that he had was a very nice upscale place. So I'm like, I'm not going to give this guy a hard time because I'm just going to assume that what he's selling is the genuine article and leave it at that. But yeah, you always want to go into the shops. You never want to go like again, the street hustlers, it's in the name. They are probably hustling you, but the nice thing is you're not going to be paying out the nose for their hustle.
Yeah, well, from what I understand, and I can't speak firsthand because I've never been to Cuba. I have some connections and could go if I wanted to, but um, even Cuba is filled with dudes hustling the streets, selling cohibas that are not legit cohibas. You know, and I don't know how many people are aware of that. It might almost be more difficult in Cuba to find a real cohiba than in some other places.
Yeah, my in-laws went to Cuba some years back and they actually brought me back like 5 cigars from different brands. Um, and I will say the Cohiba they bought me, I couldn't tell you which one it was, but it was the best Cohiba I'd had in years up to that point because unfortunately if you buy a Cohiba, here in the States, obviously they're not Cuban, they're probably from another region like Dominican or Nicaraguan because they do make them, with that tobacco for the States. Um, it might be Cuban seed, but it's grown somewhere else. Um, and that was a fantastic cigar. The others, well, there was one in particular that kind of kicked off my very complicated relationship with Monte Cristo for years because I had nothing but issues for the longest time. Every single time I smoked a Monte Cristo, the one that they got me was an open master, and I trying to smoke that thing was like trying to suck a golf ball through a garden hose.
Really?
Like
Was that
it
tight?
was it was so tight, I couldn't even get a fraction of the way through it in 15 minutes. And by the time I was done, like trying, like I didn't actually get anywhere with the cigar. By the time I was done trying, I had such a bad headache. It was insane. And no matter how much I tunneled it, no matter how much I tried to like kind of squeeze it and like mold it a little bit, I could get barely a wisp of smoke through it. And that was the first time that I've actually thrown away a cigar of that caliber. I was very disappointed, but it was what it was. But yeah, it's hit or miss with the Cubans, I will say.
Yeah. That is that's my personal stand. You probably fought with it longer than I would have. I'm not going to spend time fighting with the draw on a cigar.
Yeah,
If I can't, I have a draw tool. I'm sure you probably do
I
too.
do. I do.
Yeah, and so I'll try and open it up, but if I can't get it open, and get it going in about 5 minutes, I'm done. Like I'm just gonna toss it. I've got plenty of other cigars in my cabinet here or in the cigar box. And for your listeners, the cigar box is not a literal box. I mean, it's a custom cigar trailer, but it lives in my
Yes.
garage that I run
Right.
for business. I'm just going to go in there. I'm going to grab a cigar out of it. I'm not going to waste my time fighting with this cigar. And that doesn't mean, now you said you had a long and complicated history with Monte Cristos, but like, to be fair, when you're rolling hundreds of thousands of cigars a year, you're going to have a few that are bad. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
if you're consistently having a problem like you did, I'm curious, like what was the recurring issue with Monte Cristo?
Well, that was like the first time that I was like, that's where it started, which was like, my in-laws brought me this cigar that, and again, the rest smoked just fine because I think they got me a Cohiba, the Monte Cristo Open Master, what was it, Epicure or something like that. It was an Epicure from Hoya del Rey, I think is what it's called, or something like that. But yeah, 4 out of 5 of them smoked just fine. But that was the first time I had a problem with Monte Cristo, and then I got Just a regular Montecristo is the one with the yellow band. I can't remember what it was called. I think it was just I think it was just the classic. And that one, just nothing but problems. It kept like fighting me on the draw, and then it would loosen up, and then it would just like it was I had so much trouble with it. And then my dad in 2020, um or 2021, I can't remember which year, but he got me a box of Petite Montecristo number twos that um he purchased from this website that was based out of Switzerland, because you can purchase Cubans in Europe and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's where he would buy all of his Cubans. And so he got me a box, and he paid extra to have it in a box that was not Montecristo, and he paid extra to get it unbanded so they wouldn't get hassled through customs.
Hmm.
And so a box of 25 Montecristo, Petite Montecristo number twos. And the first one I smoked, amazing. The rest of them, it was like shooting fish in a barrel, man. It was just like you never knew what you were going to get. And a lot of them, either the draw was terrible, the wrapper would just unravel immediately upon lighting, and or they would just crack here, no matter how well I stored them and what in the how good of conditions I stored them, they just kept falling apart on me or just not holding together. So I was just like, okay, still on it with Montecristo. But after that, I started to enjoy the brand more. I just had a Montecristo from my smoke inbox, and that was great. I really enjoyed that cigar. It was really good.
Well, I'm glad to hear that your relationship with Monte Cristo has gotten better. I have, um, what do I have in the trailer right now? I need to restock. I did a big barbecue festival a few weeks ago, and
Yeah,
that took a pretty big hit on my inventory. But I've got some Monte Cristo platinums, um, which is a pretty good cigar. I think I sold out of all of my Monte Cristo White Series cigars.
I do
Um,
like the white series. That's actually very good.
you know what's interesting? As many cigars as I've handled, um, and and I don't mean smoked, I mean literally handled.
Hmm.
There seems to be, to the touch, something extra soft about the Connecticut wrapper on the Monte Cristo White Series. Have you noticed that?
It's been a long time since I've smoked it, but I do know what you're talking about. They have a very delicate Connecticut wrapper.
It's very like velvety. I don't know
Hmm.
what it is, but it's unique among Connecticut rappers, to say the least, in my humble opinion, for whatever that's worth.
The only other Connecticut that I think has a similar texture, because Connecticut's just tend to be very delicate wrappers as it was. Like I remember, the brand Sereno.
No, I'm not familiar.
Okay, yeah, Sereno cigars. That was a brand I was smoking a lot for a while, and I need to get my hands on some Serenos again. It's been years since I've smoked them. Um, but they had this one Connecticut, and I made the mistake of smoking it outside when it was really cold. Like it just happened to be an actually very cold night here in Southern California. And I was smoking and the wrapper just started unraveling. And I posted about it, not like calling out Serena or anything like that. I'm like, I just said, this is a bummer. I said, because this is a really good cigar, but the wrapper just turned on me. And they actually messaged me and they asked me, like, was it really cold or something when you were smoking it? And I was like, yeah, it was pretty chilly. They said, yeah, we have a very delicate wrapper for our Connecticut. So maybe next time, smoke it in like a warmer spot or a place where it's not going to be so cold. Cause yeah, they will do that just because of how delicate they are. They need to be stored in really good conditions and smoked in a warmer climate. I was like, okay, at least they were cool about it. And they didn't they didn't take it personally. They didn't think I was taking a dig at them. But
Yeah.
the only other wrapper on a Connecticut that has the same velvety texture is the Espinosa Crema,
Hmm.
which that is in my top three in terms of Connecticut's. Because and this is also in my top three, the Casa Cuevas Core Line Connecticut. Um, But yeah, Connecticut's kind of like Cubans. They can be very hit and miss.
I don't smoke a ton of Connecticut's. Um, I mean, that's where I started, and that's probably where most cigar smokers begin, if I had to guess,
Yeah.
um, which is understandable. But I just find a lot of Connecticut wrap cigars over time just get very monotone,
Hmm.
and just seem kind of
Yeah.
bland, you know? And
That's
so,
what I mean.
yeah, I tend to stay medium to full, and, medium full or full is where I prefer to be. And I've said this many times on my own podcast. It's kind of like, when I started first drinking coffee, I started with a breakfast blend with cream and, well, with sugar and with flavored creamer. But as I drank more and more coffee, I stopped using flavored creamer and sugar and just went to sugar and then cream. And now it's just coffee, usually with a splash of cream. Unless I'm doing like a
Yeah.
latte or something, I'll maybe get um, a a squirt of hazelnut in there because I really enjoy a hazelnut latte. And it's the same with cigars. Like I started very mild and then moved just because you get to where your palate really wants a little more. Um,
Yeah.
I find I have some in the cabinet that a friend of mine gifted me. I have some Davidoff Signature 2000, I think it is the
Hmm.
little short, and those have been good. But I really, for Connecticut's, I find I enjoy that Camacho makes a really good Connecticut. Their filler they put in there, in my opinion, is enough to keep that Connecticut interesting.
I just
That's
smoked
just
one,
me.
and yeah, you're right. It's a good Connecticut. It's kind of like you. I don't smoke a ton of Connecticut's just because I prefer the bolder flavors. And right now it's still technically the morning in California. It's almost noon, but I was still drinking my coffee, and I was just like, you know what? I'll bust out an old favorite, one that I know always goes great with coffee. I just take my coffee black with some sugar now, because you get older and you find out what your system doesn't tolerate. So creamer's a no go for me. And I'm
Okay.
sorry if that's too much info for some of the people listening, but I'm in my 40s now, so it's just like, there's some things you have to do without, which is fine. But but
Thankfully,
yeah, I just
cigars is not one of those.
oh, it's just if there ever comes a day that I can no longer smoke cigars, it's gonna be a sad day. Now, obviously, if it's like for my overall health and like they say, if you smoke another cigar, you're gonna, I don't know, have a heart attack or something, then I'll be like, okay, that I'm not that stubborn. And as much as I enjoy smoking cigars, I'm not willing to die for them. So, but so
That's
far,
fair.
nothing of the kind is happening. I have no heart issues, even though every now and then my primary care will say, "So, we ever gonna get you quitting cigars?" I'm like, "No." And I'm I'll be 100% honest. I lie my ass off because it's just like they say, "How often do you smoke?" I'm like, "Oh, just occasionally." The occasions being often, that's what I don't tell them. It's like George Burns said, like, when he was on Johnny Carson years ago, he's talking about you were gonna reference that, weren't you?
I saw that clip on Instagram this morning, and I don't know how many times I've seen it. It's fantastic.
It never stops being funny just because of how quickly he just, like, quipped after Johnny Carson said, "So does your doctor know?" He's like, "My doctor's dead."
Yeah. Yeah, dude, it's fantastic. But I'm sorry, I got you sidetracked. You were saying in the morning, you just had some black coffee and a little bit of sugar, and you were talking
Yeah.
about, some cigar.
Yeah, no, it's just this one because like, when it comes to one of my favorites to have with a cup of coffee, and to be fair, and anyone who's been smoking cigars for an extended period of time will say the same. Just about any cigar will go good with a cup of coffee. There's really no cigar that I've ever had that made a cup of coffee tastes like crap. Never have I experienced that, thankfully.
Yeah.
Um, and sometimes even like a cup of coffee can make a not so great cigar seem better, if I'm being
Yeah.
honest. Because I've
Yeah.
had some, like you said, some really bland and dry Connecticut's, and I have a cup of coffee with a little bit of sweetness to it, and that kind of carries it in a
Hmm.
way. So, but yeah, no, just there's the only thing I like having more with a cigar, other than like a good bourbon or something like that, is coffee. Just no two ways about it. So one of
Yeah.
my favorite things.
Hmm.
But you recently were in a publication talking about your business. I think it was called the Upstate Press. They had an article featuring Mobile Cigar Box.
Yeah. Upstate Community Press. That's a local publication here in the upstate of South Carolina, and they spend their time kind of highlighting local businesses, local entrepreneurs and founders. And
Okay.
they hit me up and wanted to do a write up about the cigar box. And so I was humbled and honored that they would want to chat with me about that. And so I got on a kind of a FaceTime with the guy that was going to do the write up, and we spent 15 minutes, 30 minutes just kind of chatting about the cigar box and its origins and what I do and how's it going. Um, and then, we kind of got onto the subject during the conversation about my podcast, Sunday Afternoon Smokes, and that wound up being part of the article too. I don't know that it was necessarily intended to be that way, but that's just kind of the way it happened. And that article was published several weeks ago. I don't know. I think you can find it on. I'm not sure the website, if it's like upstatecommunity.press or upstate.press is the web address, but I can send you or you can hunt the link down, or I can send it to you if you want to drop it in
Yeah,
the show notes or whatever.
absolutely. I will do that. But that's incredible. That's really great. I mean, that's not something that I think a lot of us creators, or those of us like, who have on the kind of on the smaller end of like either um content creators or small businesses, they don't always get those kinds of features. And it's nice when somebody, when you catch somebody's eye and they're like, hey, I'd love to write a piece about what you're doing, I'd love to interview you. um it's a very humbling thing, and it's a very nice thing to happen every now and then. So yeah, man, that's awesome.
Well, it really is, because as a small business owner, it's hard to get press, especially if you're not, for whatever reason. There are certain companies that start and they're just like hot out of the gate.
Yeah.
And maybe they maybe they are already popular in their community as a person, or they're very well connected with certain people within the community. Maybe they have friends that are in the local press, and just
Right.
as a as a small business, like, your press is your Instagram account or your Facebook page, or
Yeah.
you're just doing the best that you can, and you don't have money to pay somebody to write an article or on you, or or even a local magazine to do a feature on you. And even if you paid them, you might not be able to get them to do it because they might not find you interesting enough. So
Right.
when somebody approaches you and says, hey, um we notice what you're doing, we think it's really cool, we would like to sit down and talk with you, it's it's very gratifying, and it's very encouraging. And I actually met them by, kind of happenstance, but this is just part of the business. I did a cigar event for a guy that, uh, I'm trying to remember if I got connected with him first on my podcast or with cigars. I don't remember, but there's a guy here locally in the upstate who has a fitness club. And at his gym, they were doing a fundraiser for the local Shriner Children's Hospital, and he asked me if I would bring my cigar trailer out, and so it was like a bunch of powerlifting, and for that event, they had stacked like four different wheels on a big deadlift bar that were like
Jeez.
off of like Hummers, and so these wheels were enormous. They're like doing all these power lifts. They had food, music, and people are making money for donating for charity. And he's like, "Hey, I would really love you to bring the cigar box out and give us another element." And I said, "Yeah, man, I'd be happy to do that." And so I went. And look, I didn't really expect to make much money. I didn't make much money, but it was for a good cause, like a children's hospital. I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely be part of that. But one of
Yeah.
the guys who is intertwined with this upstate press, he's part of that gym. And he saw my cigar trailer and he smoked cigars and he stopped by and like we were just chatting. I didn't even know he worked for this press company and he didn't say anything about it at the time, but he was just like this. It just the cigar trailer caught his eye. It's unique. It looks great. He's into cigars, and that wound up being the catalyst for them doing a feature on me, which was really cool.
That is cool, and, sometimes, like, as I've discovered as well, it's really all about sometimes where you are and who you happen to interact with, and, when you start talking, and that's when you find things out, and that's how these networking and connection opportunities usually tend to happen. I mean, obviously, you can go out of your way to reach out to someone, which I'll admit that can be hard for me because I just get anxiety over it where I'm thinking like, I should hit this person up. And it could be a person who straight up told me, call me or hit me up anytime for anything you need. Like anything, just tell me and don't hesitate to ask. And I still hesitate because I feel weird about it. Even when somebody's being very kind and generous, I have this weird propriety complex where I'm just like, should I like, but it's like he straight up said, "Hit me up if you need anything," and it's just like sometimes you just got to be willing to do that, but other times you don't have to because you cross paths with someone who's just like, "Really, you do what? You actually? Oh, that'd be great. Could I, either be on your podcast or do you want to be on mine or could I write about you?" And it's just like, holy crap! And that's a whole different element of exposure, and especially with you having a small business, not just a podcast. That I mean you're not gonna even if you're not making like thousands of dollars on the next time you book something, somebody's still booking you, and that's a credit to your business. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Well, here's the thing I've learned about running a small business, especially the kind that I run with cigars and that is very like event based and event driven. And
Yeah.
this is just for all the people that are running small businesses doing craft things. So you're doing like local markets and like you're spending a lot of time not making enough money doing what you're doing, but you're putting in the hustle and you're putting in the grind and you have to do that. But a lot of the times it winds up not really being about the money. Um, the money is certainly a large part of it, but you never know who you're going to meet. That's
Yeah.
the thing. You're going if you do it enough and if you continue to put in the grind and you don't give up, you're eventually going to meet just that one person at this random event that can help you take the business to the next level. Let me give you an example. So I did that event with the cigar box and
Uh-huh.
I met the guy, his name's Josiah. I met Josiah, who did the interview for the article. Well, at that time, I wanted to have Josiah on my podcast. Um, and at the time, my podcast was strictly audio only.
Mhm.
And so I brought him over to my house. He's also a photographer. He has his own business as a photographer. I brought him over to my house, and before this room was built, I mean, this room has only been complete for a month, maybe. So this is
Okay.
a very brand new lounge, right? And I was telling
Yeah.
him I want to take my podcast to video And this was at the end of the podcast episode I did with him, and he he loved the podcast that I was doing. I showed him kind of a visual of what I wanted my cigar podcast lounge to look like. And he says to me, he says, I think I can help you take your video to podcast because I have some gear laying around that I don't use anymore. And the whole reason that you see me sitting in this chair in this room is because of the camera and the lens that he gave me. So because I did that one event, I met this guy. He did an article on me. I invited him on my podcast. He believed in me, liked my show, liked what I was doing, wanted to help me get to video. He gave me this camera and said, "Here, I want you to have this." And so it's not, I don't even remember how much I'm like, and I had to pay as a vendor to be part of that event, but I figured it's for a good cause. I'm going to do it. I probably made $100 that night, if that, but I
Yeah.
made a connection that has taken me farther and allowed Sunday Afternoon Smokes to build this room and go to video. And so that's part of the hustle of being a small business owner, especially if you're mobile and you don't have a brick and mortar, or you're just getting started and you're getting out there and you wind up doing a ton of events that really aren't worth your time, but you need the exposure. But the other part is the variable that you'll never be able to pin it down is, who am I going to meet by being here?
Yeah, exactly, which is why I need to get out more because I spend a lot of time here at home, just I love my family. I love being around them. My kids are great. My wife is great. I have this space that I can actually work in. Like this is the thing about, well, this is the double-edged sword about a space like this. You have the space to work in anytime you want, anytime you're able to. I don't just do the podcast and smoke my cigars in here. I also, behind me, you probably can see like the padding for like, soundproofing and sound dampening and stuff. Just in front of me over here, I got this soundproofing curtain that I pull across, you know, um, basically like almost like a closet thing. And I'll sit here and submit auditions or make voice commissions and things like that when I get them. So it's multifunctional, but it's also my man cave. And sometimes I just want to sit in here and be by myself and either smoke a cigar or have a drink. I have a TV over here. I'll watch movies and stuff like that. Sometimes I'm not getting anything done. And that's where the double-edged sword comes in. You just want to come in here and do not a damn thing and
Yeah,
all that kind of stuff.
yeah, well, you live in a different world than I do, though, and I wouldn't mind trying to do more of what you do, especially now because I have the equipment for it, right? Voice auditions and blah 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 blah. So I mean, of course, you are in Southern California, and there's a lot going on there, entertainment wise. Not that Corona is terribly close to Hollywood. It's also not
No.
terribly far, but like, you're doing your thing as a persona and as a voiceover artist slash actor, whatever, however you want to call yourself. And so being out in the community is a little bit different for you. There's like meeting random people, but there's nothing necessarily to draw people to you, so to speak.
Yeah.
Versus me, if I'm doing such and such event, well, my cigar trailer's there, and the trailer is the attraction. And then I wind up, meeting all kinds of people. And I just had a local chef hit me up. He owns several restaurants. He actually texted me this morning, and it's like, "Hey, I would like to do this summer kind of like a 3 or 4 week cigar and bourbon pairing
Yeah.
series at our event venue. Maybe we'll do some bourbon tastings pre-meal, and then we'll do several small curated small bites. And then we'll finish off the night with a really nice bourbon and cigar pairing. And we'll just kind of do this once a week for 3 or 4 weeks, make it a very limited run, be super cool. And I'm like, yeah, man, that
Yeah.
sounds awesome. I would love to do that with you. And that for me is just another huge opportunity to, uh-oh, are we back?
Yeah, I disconnected for a second. You're good. You're good.
Okay. Yeah. But that for me is another opportunity to be out there and meet only God knows who I'm going to meet that's going to help me go to the next level when it comes to my business, certain events. And the cool thing with my cigar business and then my podcast is that they work in tandem. And I didn't necessarily create it this way. It just kind of happened by accident. And but then I realized they could work together because if I invite a business owner, which is what I do, entrepreneurs, creatives, business professionals, and they sit in
Yeah.
this chair next to me, and we have a nice conversation at the end of the show, I'll talk to them about the cigar business and what I do. Well, that opens the door to future cigar business.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm doing a cigar event or whatever for this company who's a guy on my podcast. And business owners know business owners, man. And so they're throwing a party and I'm there and I meet all kinds of other interesting people. I'm like, hey, you should come on my podcast. I invite them on, more business. And it just cigar events lead to podcast
Yep.
guests lead to more cigar events. And it's just this self-feeding machine,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And that's a machine I'm trying to get turning again, because I started this podcast last year and it was something I really wanted to take to the next level because, admittedly, I've started podcasts in the past, and I was doing interviews and stuff. But for the most part, it was just me doing like either reviews or just different, pieces on different stuff on my channel. And I was getting really bored with just the monotony of it. And I really wanted to kind of take it up a next level. And so, obviously I rebranded. I went from dad smoking cigars to smoking Revelry. And then I decided to start the Revelers Rule podcast. And last year, I had several guests and then like circumstances like made it impossible for me to record podcasts until the beginning of this year. And so, here I am now, and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, if I'm going to do this, if I'm going to get back into this, kind of like what you and I were talking about earlier, is like, I'm going to try and stack as many episodes as I can. I'm not going to just wait week to week to week to week, because that was a mistake I made last time. And that's why it was getting challenging for me to do that. And, I'm going to make sure that I really try to utilize every connection and bit of networking that I have to see who I can have a talk with and have a conversation with. Cause like you said, you never know what it'll lead to. And I already have a fair amount of connections as it is, but as a voice actor and as somebody who knows a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy, essentially, I have connections with the entertainment industry and stuff like that. And I want to try and see who might be down to jump on a little fledgling nobody podcast. And I don't say that to like, you know, as self-degradating or self-deprecating. It's just one of those things where it's small. It doesn't really have that much of an audience yet. So, taking advantage of those things and the connections you have and connections that are provided to you, you just never know what it will lead to.
No, you don't, and that's part of the game, and that's why you do certain things. And I'm with you, man. I did a few cigar reviews. Not that I was a great cigar reviewer, but I mean, just to be honest, like how many different ways can I talk about 5 different Connecticut cigars?
But dear God, you're preaching to the choir, brother.
You know what I mean? Like, what am I gonna say? Like, and so, uh, y- and without going into the full thing of my story, like, how my life blew up with my wife, and in her medical trauma. So I'm like, all right, I don't have time to sit here and just do cigar reviews on this thing anymore. You know,
Yep.
let's just stick with the podcast itself. I can keep that going. But you're absolutely right, man. You need to leverage uh I don't know if leverage is the right word, but you need to utilize all those connections that you have. And like, here's the thing about podcasts, you know, like as the host, you're sitting there telling yourself, I don't know how many people want to come on my show for this little I've got zero pull, zero reach. Like it's not going to be a benefit to them, and I understand that because I was there, and by and large, I'm still there. You know, having published 63 long form episodes now. I mean, I've got some traction, but it's not like I've got 1.5 million YouTube subscribers or anything. I
Yep.
mean, just to be frank, I think I have 22 subscribers to my YouTube channel.
I have 11 on Spotify. I mean, I have plenty of subscribers on my YouTube channel because that's
Yeah,
years and years. I have like about almost 1,200, which,
yeah,
it's not massive, but it's not little either. Um,
right.
but at the same time, it's just like long form episodes. That's kind of where it gets tricky because people love to listen to podcasts and stuff like that. But sometimes, like, people's attention spans are just going out the window. So you have to try and keep it as interesting as possible. But
Well,
honestly, you do it just for the fun of it for the most part.
no, you do, but my where I was headed was basically this. It doesn't matter if your audience is, you know, 250,000 listeners or 5. People just like to go on there's something really cool about being invited to come on somebody's podcast and
Absolutely.
talk about yourself and what you're doing. Everybody says yes to that. You know what I mean? And so, and I've said this on a different podcast I was a guest on. I'm like, man, like God bless those first, you know, 40 guests I had on my show when I had 0 listeners, because I think, you know, something most people don't understand that are not in the world of making a podcast is you don't start with listeners. You start with nothing, and it takes a very long time before you actually get an audience. You know,
Yes.
it takes a catalog of episodes for your show to even start like indexing in your keywords to become searchable. Like
Yeah.
it takes a lot of time. So if you're going to do a weekly show like I do, 52 episodes is going to take me an entire year.
Yeah.
You know, so it, it it's a long game, but people like to come on and be a guest. You know, you invited me to come on your show, and I'm like, heck yeah, absolutely. Now I have a little more appreciation being a podcast host myself.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, that sounds super fun. I would love to do that. And so uh, I think that like you said, you're not being self-deprecating or even degrading yourself, but I think just maybe looking at it a little bit differently is in I feel I don't know if I feel like worthy to invite this person to come on my show because I just this little know nothing podcast. But look at it from the other side. If anybody invited Kyle to come and be a guest on their show, you'd say, yeah, heck yeah, I'd love to.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
that's the attitude of the people getting the invitation. So if I were you, I wouldn't worry about that.
No, you're right. And it's one of those things that I have to like remind myself. It's like, dude, the worst they can say is no. The worst they can
Yeah.
say is no. You ask, and either they're too busy or they're just not interested. And one, you have to make sure you don't take that personally because it's really never personal. It's just they're either interested or they're not. Um, and the other thing is just like again, they may be too busy and it may be too challenging for them to jump on a podcast, whether it's in person or even remotely. Which is why things like this are beautiful because then you and I can just sit down and talk and connect. And you're across the country, and while we had the fortune of getting to meet each other in person first. You know, the thing is we can still do this just about any time, and it still works out beautifully. And you know, again, that's the power of networking and connection. I mean, we met by chance, but at the same time, we developed a connection and we support each other. And that's, I mean, if nothing else, that is just like honestly one of the best benefits of what we do.
Yeah. And by the way, man, I really do love the artwork upgrade on the Smoke and Revelry. It looks
Thank you.
it's very classy, man. It looks so good.
Yeah. It took a couple of tries because I was just like, at first people were saying like, "Oh, make it look like the cigar band thing." And after a while, I was just looking at it. I'm like, this is a little bit too complicated for me. I was like, I need to kind of simplify it, not dumb it down, but simplify it in a way that makes it easily transferable to just about anything. And once I did that, because I kind of had that waiting in the wings, that was one of the first designs I did. And I asked people, what do you think I should use? And everybody went for the cigar band. And
Oh,
after a while,
who are you asking? Are you just throwing that out to social media or are you asking friends and family?
I threw it out to social media and asked friends and family. And they, by and large, were saying, yeah, use that one. It looks really cool. But then after a while, it's just like when I tried to, you know how it is when you want to transfer a logo to different mediums, especially when you're designing thumbnails or whatever else, it needs to be easily transferable to different things. And like I have a subscription to Canva, and that's been a godsend because like I can use that to make anything like the Revelers Rule podcast logo. I made it through there, and the current Smoke and Revelry logo. Um, but like the whole thing is if you can't properly remove the background from it and it doesn't look good, it's time to pick something else that's going to be a little bit more simplified, but still just as eye catching.
Yeah. Well, it
So,
looks
but
really great.
I appreciate that, man. I'm very happy with it, and I think it's gonna stay that way. That's gonna be the logo for a long time to come.
Yeah. I'm curious about your decision to put that out there for public opinion. Um, what's your thought process there? I'm a little more autonomous when it comes to my design. I usually don't ask for opinions. I just find what I like and do that.
It was more just like it was essentially taking a survey because I wanted to make sure that like my audience, one, I was engaging my audience and seeing what their thoughts were because that's that's one way to do marketing. For people to get people's opinions, and then they think, oh, I'm participating, and they want to know my thoughts, and it doesn't always work out as well as you'd like because some people will just uh, give it a glance and be like, oh yeah, that one, and they're not even really giving it much thought. And so, the first one that I went with, I was happy with for a while, but the more that I looked at it, I'm like, I don't like this anymore. And it doesn't look, it's too complicated. It's too much. And so I'm not saying that the people who offered their thoughts were wrong or that they made a bad decision. The logo looked good for what it was worth, but when it came to how I wanted to promote things and how I wanted to package things, the one that I currently use just was so much better.
Um, I'm trying to remember that I'm the guest on your show and not turning into host because I have
It's all good.
questions.
No, it's all good. Ask away.
Well, I'm just curious. What was it that led you to say it's time for a facelift? Did you feel like you had outgrown the logo or
It was partly that, yes. It was also just like it wasn't working for me again in like the packaging aspect and trying to transfer it to different things, and I
okay.
remember for a very brief period, which I want to get this back up and running. I actually have a merch store through Printify that I need to resurrect and try and see if I can get some people to buy merch and stuff like that and wear it. That logo just does not transfer to t-shirts or anything else. It just doesn't. It doesn't look good. It was just because of the background and how the overall design of it was, I was just like, no, this isn't working. Whereas the current logo, you could put on anything and it would transfer very well. It also looks, it looks slick. It's very clean. There's nothing overly complex about it, and it's still an eye-catching logo. People will look at it and like, "Oh yeah, that looks cool. I like that." And that's honestly all the feedback I've gotten when I changed the logo. Everybody was like, "Yeah, that looks really clean and slick and sleek." And so, yeah, that's a good one. And I'm like, "Okay, I made the right decision." So, yeah, that was a lot of the motivation behind it, just like from a packaging, a marketing, a promotional aspect, because those all tie together. It just wasn't working and I didn't like it. And I wanted something also that looked nice next to the Revelers Rule logo. Cause like the Revelers Rule podcast, I say is under the umbrella of Smoke and Revelry Media Productions. Cause that's kind of, you know, it's a nice packaging that people will see and it's appealing, you know? So, and that's what people sometimes put on the, on the, on the sticker when they deliver packages, like, how do you want me to, do you want me to just send it under your name? And I'm like, no, send it under Smoke and Revelry Media. And that's what they do now. So it works out pretty nice, but, yeah, I'm really happy with it right now. And people seem to think it looks cool and they like it. And, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Agreed. Yeah, man. No, there's something very special about your logo. And when I say
Yeah.
yours, I don't mean yours in particular. I just mean yours in a general. Anybody that it has
Yeah.
a business and is creating that logo, uh, I would like don't just slap something together. You put some thought into what you want it to look like because that
Yeah.
logo is going to say something visually
Yep.
about your brand and about what you're doing. And yeah, so I mean yours is it's kind of like where I lean. It's kind of vintage,
Hmm.
classy.
Yeah.
And this room I purposely, the chairs, the rug, the lighting, the carpet, the wallpaper, rug carpet, the wallpaper, the slat wall, the sconces, like all of it. I wanted this room to be very masculine, very um kind of like what a legitimate lounge should be. I felt like in my own vision.
It
And
has a
I think
very Mad Men feel to it, in my opinion.
sweet. Yeah, that's great. I appreciate that. Um, I had a guy, in fact, he's a guy lives just a few doors down the street from me, and we go to church together. And he's building me a dedicated website for the podcast. And
Very nice.
he's been a guest on my show, but he came over several weeks ago and was sitting in this chair, and we were talking, and he's looking around the room, and it's probably the biggest compliment that I've had yet. He said, "When I come in here, I forget that on the other side of this wall, there's a house." He said, there's no clocks in here. There's no time in here. He's like, this is just a room I came into and I can just sit and the rest of the world has stopped.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that I appreciated that so much. Um, and it's just wild to me to think that like this is this is my downstairs guest room in my house. And right that way, I don't think you can't see it because of the camera angle, but there's a door right there. And if you were to walk out that door, you'd pretty much be standing in my kitchen. But this is the Sunday afternoon smokes lounge, and it's supposed to be. I think you hit it pretty well. It's like a very Mad Men. I need to
Yeah.
watch that show. I've never seen it.
Neither have I, honestly. It was one of those shows that kind of eluded me because at the time that it came out, I was already watching a bunch of different shows. And there's so much to watch now because of, streaming and other stuff. But yeah, it was a show that I never really let myself get into. Same thing with like Breaking Bad and all that kind of stuff, which is a show I still want to watch.
I've never
Um,
seen it.
yeah, I've heard nothing but like good things about it. Like that, it's a very gripping show. It really grabs you. But yeah, no, just there's so many shows and so many movies to watch. It's just like everybody says, "Oh, you should watch this." It's like maybe one day I'll get around to it when I'm like my kids are going off to college, you know, because
Yeah.
I got two younger kids. I got one in junior high and he's about to be a teenager. My youngest is still in elementary school. So there's still the very busy aspect of, having younger kids, because you're constantly carting them off here, there, and everywhere. And they're both in scouts. And so there's that element. But, it can be very challenging just for my wife and I to sit down and watch a show together, just depending on how the day goes. And then there's only like two or three shows we watch together because, we don't like all of the same stuff. We used to watch a lot of shows together, but then she started watching shows that I can't stand. And then there's shows that like I really like, and she's like, I can't watch that. I'm like, oh well, I guess we're on our own, when it comes to the shows we watch. But
Oh, darn, you mean I have to go to my cigar room and turn on the TV all by myself? Oh, no.
not pretty much because
Uh,
like, I'm right now I'm not working as much as I normally would. Just it's the circumstances I'm in right now because a lot of places unfortunately are having to make cuts here and there. So my hours have gotten literally cut in half. And so I'm home a lot right now and I've been looking for new jobs. And so I've been spending a lot of time in here. So I've been taking advantage of the fact that during the day while my kids are at school, I can come in here and record some podcast episodes while I'm also looking for work and trying to book gigs and things like that. So, it's nice to have that time, and I try not to spend too much time in here, especially during the evenings when the kids are in bed and it's just me and the wife. But sometimes she'll just straight up say, like, without me doing it, it's like, "So are you going in the studio tonight?" I'm like, I don't have to." She's like, "It'd be fine if you did, because I really just want to read this book or watch this show." And I'm thinking, okay, this is your subtle way of saying, go in your man cave. I want to be by myself and consume my media. I'm like, you don't have to tell me twice."
that's very kind of her to phrase it as a question,
Yep.
but I feel like you could probably, and I could probably just say, like, to the wife, it's okay if you just say to me, go to the man room tonight. I'm totally fine with that. It doesn't have to be a question so you can give me the opportunity. If you want to read a book or watch your show, I don't like, just say, I'm gonna do this. You can go to the man room. That's good.
Yeah, pretty much. But I try to make sure not to completely, exploit that because, while we love our alone time, especially at this phase of life when we have so little time alone, yes, we'd love to spend time together, but sometimes we just want to be by ourselves.
Well,
And it's
everybody needs it.
everybody needs it. You're exactly right. And so I'm grateful that she understands that, like, she has her time to do her thing and I have my space. And so she's like, yeah, if you want to go in there, that's cool. No catch, no trap.
I mean,
Cause
yeah. To be completely honest with you, I am going to do my very dead level best to not spend personal time in this room. Not because I don't want to come in here and smoke cigars. I do, but if I'm going to come in here, I want it to be either for a podcast or I'm preparing for a podcast or doing work for the cigar box because I want to use this room strictly for 100% work so I can write it all off at the end of the year as a part of a tax write off. Because if you come in here for casual time, then you can't claim it. Now, it's not like they can verify that, but that's, where you have a conscience maybe. But like the if I can use this for all work and only work, then I can write off this portion of my house.
You know what? There are worse things, honestly, and if you can find a way to exploit a loophole in like a legitimate way, like you're not trying to be shady. You're like you actually have a business, and the podcast is kind of an extension, like just an arm of that business. Not 100% of the time, but it definitely is a part of it. Then yeah, if you can do that and you do that legitimately, then yeah, absolutely. That's your workspace. That's where you go to, conduct business or to, it's basically your media production place where you're producing media for said business. So yeah, man, that is absolutely something you should do.
Yeah, well, this like the Sunday Afternoon Smokes podcast is a result of the Cigar Box. So everything I do on this podcast runs through everything I do financially for this podcast, this room build, the rabbit air that I have here on the wall that you can't see because it's out of camera view. Um, my exhaust fan, like everything in here that I paid for through the Cigar Box. So that's all going to be a write off. And like I said earlier, I mean, the podcast gives
Right.
me cigar business, the cigar business gives me podcast guests. And so, yeah, this is all like 100% legitimately. Um, I can write all this off, even well, not all of those bottles back here on the shelf. Um, I only bought one of those bottles. I have a friend who I made friends with this guy on Twitter of all places.
Yeah.
Um, he just started following me and I followed him back and we started DMing. And then eventually that led to some actual text messages. And now we're friends and he sends me cigars and I send him some stuff from time to time and we'll get on FaceTime together and smoke. But he's very, very in the know on cigars and tobacco and spirits. He works at his local Total Wine. He does a ton of their tasting classes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
The only bottle I bought up here is on the far side. It's a bottle of scotch. It's Aberlour 12 year.
I
The
love
rest of
that
that,
stuff.
Old Forester, single barrel, barrel strength, Redbreast 12, Irish whiskey, Appleton Estate rum, and Sagamore rye double oak. There's a bottle in here of Michter's rye
Ooh.
signed by the master of maturation. She's the first female in the Bourbon Hall of Fame. He
Wow,
sent
that's awesome.
he sent me all those bottles for the video launch of my podcast.
Oh,
And he sent me that whole box of Davidoff signature 2000s. And he sent
I
me a
I
whole bunch of other stuff.
I need to find me a friend like that because my whiskey collection is I have nothing. Oh, actually, not entirely true. Although what I do have is like down
Yeah,
to
yeah,
here.
yeah.
It's a bottle of Old Smoky peanut butter whiskey. That's all I got.
Well, that's not terrible. I mean, there
No,
could be
it's not.
worse things to drink. Well, I don't drink this stuff. I have to tell myself this stuff is for the show only. I can't just come in here and drink this whenever I want. This is only the show. I have one bottle outside in my little whiskey shelf that my friend Jason Jansen, who was video episode number one, but show episode 63 on the episode, he gave me a bottle of Willet rye.
Ooh, nice.
So I drank that. And you can find it on my YouTube channel or on Spotify. But dude, that stuff is killer good. That Willet rye. Oh man, it's fantastic.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been like considering doing, and it just takes reaching out. And again, I have to get over my anxieties or whatever it is that's keeping me from doing it, is just reaching out to smaller brands and seeing if they, want to have their brand highlighted, if they're at all interested in it being featured and stuff like that. Because for the most part, and I have to like when I talk to people about this, I have to remind them it's like it's not me just trying to get free stuff. Because while free stuff is fantastic, everybody loves free stuff. It's one of those things where like there's a lot of smaller businesses out there that to get the chance to promote them and they don't have to pay for marketing, a lot of times they are more than happy to collaborate in that way because it's just another way of getting people's attention and say, hey, you need to try this new thing or try this product. And, again, that's one of the beautiful things about networking and connecting with people is that if, you can develop an actual real connection with the person, you know, they're happy to work with you. And it's a blessing. It's the exception. It's not the rule, but it can be a blessing if somebody is willing to work with you on that and collaborate in that way. And I've found that especially in the cigar industry, that's one of the uh beautiful things about connecting with people is they love to share with you, and it makes you want to share more about them and get people's attention because you're just like, this is a beautiful and wonderful opportunity, and it's great to be able to do that for somebody.
Yeah. Well, it becomes a cross promotion, to be honest. Like if you wind up in partnership, I've when we were at TPE, when I met you in January of 25, one of the companies that I met that I really, really enjoyed, and now I carry their cigars regularly is Artista. And
Yeah,
man, they're such cool people. And so
I talk with
um
Kevin pretty regularly.
I've never talked with him. I don't know that I met him, but I did meet one of their reps, Carolyn Wood, and
Carolyn was a nice lady. Yeah,
she's super great, and she and I keep in contact. And I've already sent her some stuff about the podcast, and hopefully I can get something going with Artista. But the thing about the sponsorships is this is like they like working with. I think you don't have to have an enormous following, but if you have a dedicated following, even if it's small, you can make an impact for them. And it's not just beneficial for them, it's
hmm,
beneficial for you because if they go in partnership with you, they are incentivized to share your show because
yeah,
you're featuring their product. And so their followers in turn have an opportunity to become your followers. And so it's good for your podcast and it's good for their brand and everybody's happy.
absolutely. And yeah, Artista is a great brand. Kevin, he's based out here in California in Ventura County, so he's relatively close. And
I
I
didn't know
just
that.
spoke. Yeah, I just spoke with him just before he went to PCA because I'm planning on having him on the podcast. And the one thing he kept telling me since the day we met, he's like, "Let me know when I will come to you, so that way we can do this in person." Because he's a killer guy, and he's been very generous with his time. Anytime him and I talk, it's always a great conversation. He's just a really great listener, a very insightful guy. And I hit him up and I just said, "Hey, when you got time, I'd love to have you on the podcast." He's like, "Let me hit you up when the craziness of PCA is all done, and yeah, then we can talk more about it." And so yeah, he's been really great and sent me some product and stuff like that. He sent me off with a lot of stuff from TPE last year.
Yeah.
I still have a few things that he
What
sent me.
what has been because I've smoked several of their cigars, but I think my favorite of everything I've smoked of theirs, and I haven't smoked everything they've got, but
Hmm.
their Harvest Sumatra
Yes,
is
absolutely.
is amazing.
In fact, I think I still have one left in my humidor here, so I'm gonna see if that is the one that I've got left.
They've come out with some new stuff since then.
Yeah, they have. And no, actually, no, I have the Cimarron Mad Rob. That's
Okay.
what I got left here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, no, everything I've tried from them, even like kind of just the what's it the why am I forgetting the name of it? It's their Connecticut's and their Maduros. The is it the Buffalo 10 or whatever it is?
Yeah, Buffalo 10
Y-
is good.
It is. It
Buffalo
really is
10
good.
is good. I've smoked I've obviously smoked the Harvest Sumatra. I've smoked the
Hmm.
Puro Ambar. Honestly, I like their Fuglies, dude. Just did you get any of those?
Yeah, I got those fugly cheroots from TPE. He sent me off with some of those. And when I didn't have a lot of time to smoke, those were perfect.
Just a rough Dominican hand rolled. I mean, it's technically a cheroot, but it's a cigar. And dude,
Yeah.
those things, whenever I do events and people don't want to, not that I selling only high dollar cigars out of my trailer,
Yeah.
but if people just want to stay under $10, dude, those
Yeah.
sell like crazy and they're excellent.
Yeah. I mean, for something, I mean, they're what you love about them, first off, is that they're honest. They basically let you know, yeah, we know these look ugly, but you're going to love how they smoke and you're going to enjoy the experience. And if you don't have a whole lot of time on your hands, then yeah, you're going to have a nice quick little smoke. It take you less than 30 minutes to smoke it, and it's still good cuz it's not a gas station smoke. It masquerades as one, but it's
Yeah.
anything but. It's anything but a gas station smoke. So it's yeah, I love those. Those were so good.
Well, I tell people that that cigar is, like I said, it's not pretentious. It's called made to be fugly. So it's not pretending to be a $30 cigar. It's not.
Yeah.
That's a either, like you said, a quick smoke, or I'm mowing the grass, right? Or I'm fly fishing in the stream for some trout and I don't want to drop a $18 stick in the, or I'm deep sea fishing. I don't want to drop this overboard. I mean, I'm riding my motorcycle, I'm walking my dog, whatever. It's a very good cigar for that kind of stuff.
No, absolutely. And then there were they had another one that was like a quick smoke. They were smaller. I'm trying to remember what they were called. They had like it was like a Connecticut and a Maduro. They were smaller sticks that didn't have bands. Um and those were really good as well. So I think what I just showed you is I think that's like my only one or two of
Yeah.
them that I have left. So yeah,
Ha- Have,
I was trying to to savor them as much as possible.
yeah. Well, they have their other line called Paperboy. Um,
That's it. The Paper Boys.
that's the one, Paperboys. Yeah.
Yeah.
And did you smoke any of their David Ortiz stuff?
I
The
don't
Big
think I
Poppy?
did.
Yeah.
I
I haven't
definitely didn't
either.
smoke that one. I haven't
Yeah.
smoked that one yet.
But I've never talked to Kevin. I didn't know he was in California. Excuse me, Carolyn, their rep lives down um, in Florida somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. And I told her if she's ever up in the Greenville area, I'd love to have her on the show. It'd still be a little bit of a hike, but if I can get her up here, I
Yeah.
don't tip, I don't typically do remote interviews on my podcast, um, just because like I've built this room for a guest very intentionally. And so
But
the
yeah.
room, yeah, the room does like the heavy lifting. I've built this room for closeness, and for in-person intentionality. And I might be willing to do a remote interview for the right person, but but Kevin's right in your backyard, man. So yeah, if you can
Yeah.
swing an in-person with him, you should totally knock that one out of the park.
No, absolutely. Like I was him and I were talking for a while to see if like I could kind of come out as like a guest of Artista to PCA, but it was just one of those things where it wasn't in the cards and whatnot. But he was really cool. I mean, he entertained the idea. He was trying to see if he could make it happen for me, but it was just as well because again, like the job situation right now that I have is very frustrating and complicated. So it's just like, you know what? Even if like let's just say for the sake of argument, Artista or any other brand was willing to foot the bill of me coming out there, um, it probably is better that it didn't happen because I gotta get things settled with my job situation. I need to make sure that I'm handling that, and I can't do that when I'm on a trip. You know,
Yeah, sure.
so I'm doing everything up. The job market in California is not the best. I will say that.
Well, you should move to South Carolina.
Yeah, I don't think I can convince the wife to do that. We have too many roots here. It's like our roots go deep here. All of our
Yeah.
family is out here. Like people say the same thing, like, "Oh, you should move to this state. You should move to like Texas or Tennessee or South Carolina. And it's just like, as wonderful as that experience would be to like live, because I love the southern states, man. They're just beautiful. And there's a culture there that's completely different from than what we have here in California.
Absolutely.
And I love Nashville. I like Memphis. I haven't gotten the opportunity to travel too much elsewhere in the southern states because just it's not always in the cards. But I would definitely love to explore more of the South because there's just so much there to see and so much there to experience. But
There's a ton, and
yeah,
it's not easy. Just you can't just move. Moving is expensive. It's
you
crazy.
don't have to
Like,
tell me. You don't have to tell me, man.
yeah, you know, I'm glad to be living where I'm living, and I'm glad that I was able to make the move. But yeah, man, moving is not for the faint of heart, especially not at a guy at your stage of life when you got two little kids and it's wow, yeah.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe one day down the line that'll be what happens. But I as much as I might bitch about living in California because there's a lot to complain about just depending on what we're talking about. I'm glad I don't live anywhere near LA because LA is its own kind of hell. But I do love my state. I do love living where I live. There's a lot to enjoy and experience here as well. But yeah, who knows? Maybe when I quote retire, even though I'm never going to retire because of what I want to get into as a career path, that'll be what happens. But time will tell, man. Time will tell.
Absolutely.
So, well,
Absolutely.
Chris, I don't think there's much else that we can discuss. We've already discussed a lot of really great things, and I've had a blast talking with you and having you on the podcast. I really appreciate you taking the time. Especially, you got a busy schedule, so I really do appreciate it, man. And I love the look of the lounge. It looks fantastic.
Thanks, man. I appreciate the compliments, and it's been a privilege to be on the Revelers Rule podcast. I'm definitely gonna. Do you listen to your shows?
It depends on my mood. I try not to be so vain as to like depending, like, it's like, sometimes I forget what was talked about in a given episode. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna listen to this to kind of get a recap of what the episode was, because sometimes I'll listen to an episode and I'm like, oh, okay, I can't listen to this anymore. And it's my own show. And then there's other times where like there were episodes I recorded that I had so much fun with. And I'm like, I gotta listen to that again because that was a blast. That was a hoot. So
Yeah.
sometimes, yeah, definitely not often.
Yeah,
Definitely not often.
yeah, we're a bit opposite. I listen to every single one of my episodes, but I do so for two reasons. Number one, I just try and help the algorithm. So
Mhm.
I have like a room of 50 computers with different IP addresses, and I learn them all on this. I wish.
Wouldn't that be
No, but
nice?
yeah, but I listen to it for that reason. But I try and listen with a critical ear and be like, how did this go? What could I do better as a host?
Yeah,
What
exactly.
should I have asked? But I'm gonna listen once this goes up. I'm gonna listen to it just for fun. I want to see, as a
Absolutely.
listener, how this episode went. But man, I appreciate you inviting me to be on the show and to talk about the cigar box and to talk about Sunday afternoon smokes. It's been a
Absolutely.
great time, and it was great to catch up with you.
Likewise, man. It's really good to see and hear your voice, and we'll have to do this again soon. And yeah, man, maybe I'll jump on your podcast soon if you're down to do a remote episode, and we can talk some more and all that kind of
Well,
stuff. Because
what we'll do, I'll make an exception to my virtual rule. Like I said, so when I go to the Caribbean, I'll pick up some of the Cuban cigars, and
yes,
I'll send you a couple in the mail, and
yeah,
we'll record a remote episode, and we'll smoke them, and we'll talk about whatever, but, at the beginning, at the
yeah.
end, we can start off talking about how they were, and then at the end, we can recap and just kinda give a real time, "Here's what's happening with the Cubans in, the Caribbean," or wherever.
I'm absolutely down for that. That sounds like a blast. So yes,
Yeah.
definitely. We'll have to do that
Okay.
soon. But well, Chris, at the end of every episode, I asked everyone the same question, and the answer is in the title of the podcast, and that is who rules?
Revelers, baby.
Exactly. So, and if you are listening and enjoying this podcast, that also means you. So, thank you for tuning in. And we appreciate you guys checking out the podcast. Please be sure and check the show notes and the description. Please check out Mobile Cigar Box if you're in the area of South Carolina or anywhere close. Maybe you should, well, you definitely should book Chris. And also check out his podcast, Sunday Afternoon Smokes. And yeah, again, Chris, appreciate you being on. And we will see you guys in the next one.
See you.